Maranatha. I just wanted to do a quick update or just a quick little video on this year's Feast of Tabernacles, aka Sukkot in Hebrew. So I've been uh, pitching a tent uh, for the last, I'm going to say, since 2015 or 16. So it's been about at least 5 years I've been doing this now, camping in my property, but basically outside, under the stars and all, under the heavens, under the sky. And when I read the traditions of how the Yehudim keep the feast, they don't actually live in the tabernacle or the sukkah. They actually, from what I read, now comment if I got this wrong, but from my impressions, from what I understand, is they go in there to eat and sleep if the weather is agreeable, but they'll go back in their normal house, their normal living quarters, whether it's a house, apartment building, whatever, their living residences. So they'll only use that as like a like a motel room or something where you just go and you sleep and you'll eat, but this year I came to the realization that if we're really being honest with ourselves, we should really live in it for the 7 days and just stay there. And maybe you prepare food in the house or outside, or I mean, ideally you do it outside if you can, get some survival skills training. So you prepare your food outside and really live as the Israelites did in the wilderness for 40 years. They didn't have the luxury to just go inside a mansion or a house or a structure like a building or something like that, and just use the sukkah for hotel, to sleep and eat or whatever limited activities. No, they had to stay in there. They had no other choice but to live in those tents. Um, so I think there's a lot of lessons to learn just by doing that, and I haven't done that yet. But that's the plan for next year, to actually do that and spend most of my time in there. One of the reasons I did not do that is, or have not done that, is because during the daytime, the tent gets hit with so much sunlight that you're gonna immediately, your skin will get, uh, you're gonna have a lot of sun exposure to your skin. So there's a risk for skin cancer. So I've set up a dark tarp to cover the tent, and hopefully, for next year, Yah willing, I can put that up on top of the tent, over it as a shade to provide like sun shade, essentially. And I feel like there's going to be a lot of lessons to learn to do that for a full 7 days. Really spend the majority of my time, if not all my time, in the tent. And second thing I wanted to mention is there are the symbols you're supposed to take. You have the palm branch, the thick bough of a tree, a good tree, and willow branches, and fruit, and good fruit, and you're supposed to like wave them or praise with them. And so I don't think these things are out of our reach. They're not unreasonable, and I mean, you do what you can with what you have based on where you live. But it just reminds me that this Torah, this law, is not impossible to keep. It's not set up or written in such a way that it is difficult or burdensome to do. No, it's actually practical and realistic. And if you really want to do it, you will do it. Um, as far as spiritual lessons, there was a day, it was actually in the Shabbat, just this past Shabbat, and I had it in my mind that I'm not keeping this feast honestly, that I just go in there to sleep and eat. I don't really live in it. So I said, let me just go in there. We're doing a Zoom meeting on the Shabbat, and brought my laptop with me into the tent. started raining all of a sudden, and it was very the winds were very tumultuous. It destroyed a lot of things in my community, destroyed trees, like thick trees, destroyed people's property, and even a lot of my tent was really, it looked like irreparable. So I thought I'd have to buy another tent, but turns out it was salvageable. It was only the rain fly that was really destroyed. And I said, I want to hear the thunder, the lightning, see the lightning, and just really experience kind of like a um, sort of like what God's voice sounds like, what Yah's voice sounds like in the outside, and just be in the elements and not, run away from it. And I thought, let's see, this might be fun. It was a little fun, but it was a little scary at the same time because I was using my cot as like a shield or like to keep the tent from breaking down and also like a shelter from the rain. But no, the rain just beat down on me and the tent and the wind was pushing against the cot. And it was like a very intense wrestling match. And I've been in some wrestling matches in my life, but that was the closest I've come to literally wrestling God. I was like pushing, digging my heels into the ground, really pushing and pushing just to stay upright or even to just to not get carried away with the wind. And that was quite an experience. I'll never forget that, probably for the rest of my life. That was quite a once in a lifetime kind of experience there. And made me realize that as the tabernacle or their tents that we are instructed to live in for 7 days, they they are subject to wear and tear. Sometimes maybe they'll just be destroyed utterly, just completely uh, by the elements. They just won't last. That's kind of like a metaphor for this human life we have. Um, yeah, we get to choose our tent in a way, but we don't get to choose the tent we live in this lifetime. So we do we should do our best with what the resources we have at our disposal, and we should learn about our bodies. We should get to be familiar with our not just our bodies, but even our minds and what kind of people we are. Because if you know that, for example, if you know that you're hot tempered or whatever it is, and you make a conscious effort to really combat it and not just to fight it and fight the urge, but to replace it with a different, positive trait. So, for example, I used to be somebody who liked to speed when I'm driving and had not so much patience. But today I made the conscious effort to really take it easy, drive the speed limit, be uh, con- considerate to others, and just not be in a rush. Like, even though most of the time when I was speeding, it's because I'm late for work or, I want to get there early. But I realized, you should just make the preparations to get there on time, and rushing, is jeopardizing your life. And so I guess that ties in with tabernacles that we shouldn't jeopardize our lives over things like that. Um, when you have a tent, you should secure it, you should protect it, become familiar with it. You understand and see the parallel that, you have a tent, God gives you a tent in this form of flesh and blood, and we just, we depend on Him for so much. Uh, Although we're not living in the elements, a lot of us have our own residence or we have a roof over our heads, but there are a lot of people who don't. Um, but it's important. I think one of the lessons that is almost impossible not to learn is how dependent we are on our Creator to keep us safe. Just being outside or just living day to day, You think of our immune systems, think of so many different variables and factors that could destroy us, both physically, mentally, spiritually, in so many different ways. But God is a good father, and He has a good father, and whether it's our time to go or it's our time to suffer, or for whatever reason, He has a good plan, and the end result is good. But it's still a journey. Life is a learning journey. It's a journey where we are constantly learning, and although the 7 days, it's a little sobering, but it is also uh, we're commanded to rejoice, and that's because it pictures the millennium, pictures the time where God is dwelling with us, where Yah is here on this earth. His Son, the Son and the Father are with us. They're dwelling with us. Finally, Eden is restored, order is restored. Sin is put out, death is put out, the enemy is put out. There's no sin, no death, no suffering, no crying, no pain, no corrupt systems, no lies, none of that. It's just truth. It's just goodness. It's just love. There's no hate. So the eighth day has come upon us. It is the eighth day of the feast. I should say it's not of the feast. It's another feast altogether. It's called the last day, the eighth day, or they call it the eighth, the last um, great day, or the most important day of the feast. I don't know what exactly they call it, but the eighth day is one of the names. And that in itself is another great, it's a great mystery, but it's also a great lesson in there. So I'm going to just read, uh, review what it says about this feast. So I do believe we are supposed to dwell in tents. It's explicitly written here in verse 30, verse 33. On the 15th day of the 7th month, there shall be a feast of tabernacles 7 days. The first day will be a holy convocation or gathering. You shall do no servile work. 7 days you shall offer whole burnt offerings. Well, that one, it's a little tough to do, and there's no, temple. And it says here, the 15th day, when you shall have gathered, you shall keep a feast 7 days. Okay, there shall be a rest, on the 8th day a rest. On the first day you shall take goodly fruit of trees to rejoice before you 7 days in the year. So I did that in the first day. I'm not sure if you're supposed to do that for 7 days, but just in case I was doing that, waving the branches and those various items. On the 7th month you shall keep it 7 days. You shall dwell in tabernacles. So it is 7 days. So we aren't commanded to do this on the 8th day. So let me just see what it says here for the 21st. Okay, it says Day of Atonement, all right. 7 days. On the 15th, you should keep a feast, so that is the first day of the feast. So I don't see the 8th day here. I don't see it at all. Okay, it's right here. 35, no, 36. And the eighth day shall be holy convocation to you. You shall offer whole burnt offerings to Yah. It is a time of release. You shall do no servile work. So it is the holy convocation. That is the eighth day. So you dwell in the tents for 7 days, and the eighth day is a holy convocation as well. It doesn't say you cannot dwell in the tent, but it's not explicitly commanded that you should, that you know that you're going to be in that tent. So I think that's it. Yeah. So that's all I wanted to mention for this year. Those are the lessons I learned this year, and I appreciate and very much. It's a journey. Every year you do it, that you observe this meaningful, beautiful, wise, and just amazing feast day. Feast days, you your relationship with our Father and the Son, and really just deepens. You appreciate it more. You appreciate this life more, and we should really not. We should learn not to take things for granted because it was so easy for a time. I think from 2001 to around 2010. So for 10 years, um, I felt like I did take these feast days for granted somewhat. That you get used to them, they become routine, and you just that was with the Church of God, and they just become like family vacations and just routine things. You already know what the preacher's going to say before he says it. Is how routine it became. But um, again, it was I can't blame only the preachers that they just rehashed and recycled old sermons. But we also have a responsibility to to spiritually grow and to continually study the word and to try to according to the understanding we're given to keep the feasts as honestly as possible according to scriptures. So that's all I have for today. I just wanted to do a short video. I didn't want it to go too long with this, but they're beautiful feasts. They are very much agricultural. They are uh, meant for a community, especially a society that is agrarian, that is Gemeinschaft, not Gesellschaft, like the industrial age ushered in, but much like how the Amish, the Mennonites, and many other communities live, where they, take care of each other. And when one member suffers, they all, try to help out to help that person to get back on their feet. So that's it. And Maranatha and Chag Sameach too, if you're keeping this feast day, which I am, the eighth day. So rejoice.